I'm not nervous or anything anymore, but I'm also still not like, the way it took me a long time to realize. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm a songwriter and a performer, and I like being in a band, or I like to perform the stuff I make up and create, but I'm not an entertainer, right?
Welcome to Overeducated and Underemployed. We got a great episode this week with T. Hardy Morris, formerly a frontman of a band called Dead Confederate. He's been solo for several years now. I've seen him a bunch of times. I've seen him opening for the Drive-By Truckers a few times, seen him at AthFest, seen him most recently at Under the Oaks here in Tallahassee. It's a concert series going on all summer, grant-based. Check it out. There's a link in the description of the schedule, and I've put it up on the screen here. Seen some great bands already. T. Hardy Morris came to town last week. I wanted to get this out right away since he's playing at AthFest, and I'll be performing at AthFest as well as part of the comedy Kickoff show. I'm going to be featuring for Drew Morgan that night, so come on out. It'll be at Livewire. I think tickets are cheaper with a Club Crawl band, but it is not included in the Club Crawl. It's the kickoff party for AthFest, Livewire, Thursday night next week. I hope to see y'all out. Now, T. Hardy Morris came on the show. He's done an interview. He answered some questions that I typically ask. So rather than ask him the same questions, I kind of referred to that interview. I don't think you need to have read that interview to know what we're talking about. I referred to that interview and talk about it, but there is a link to it in the description of this episode. If you want to check it out after the interview that I did, it was a pretty good starting point for me. I hope you enjoy this interview. But before I bring it to you, I mentioned doing the comedy Kickoff show with Drew Morgan. Lanny Farmer will also be on that show with me. He's been on this show before. Just want to mention some of the guests on this show that are playing AthFest this year. We've got Slightly Famous Somebodies. They've been on the show. John Neff will be playing with Bloodkin. We've had 3/4 of the Lanes on. Matt Lane, Kevin Lane, and Jay Gonzalez. The Lanes will be playing. The Arcs will also be playing. We've had several members of them, including Kevin Lane, Matt Lane, and Ben Spraker. Pylon Reenactment Society, we've had Jason Neesmith on. Of course, T. Hardy Morris is playing. You're about to hear our conversation. I'm going to be sitting down with MK Barnes. Hopefully, I'll be sitting down with Dash Riprock and Lily Hyatt as well. So look forward to those episodes. I also just want to thank everybody that came out to the Don't Tell comedy show I was on Friday night. It was totally sold out. Great crowd. Great show. All the other comics that were on it. I'll be in Athens for a full week. Come say hey. I'll be at Wonder Bar on Monday, the 22nd. I'll be in Winder. These are all pre-AthFest. And then I'll be at AthFest filming an episode of this show. So come say hey. Maybe you can give us some person on the street commentary on AthFest. Next week, we got Lige Curry from Parliament Funkadelic. He's been in the band for over 45 years. Talk about everything from when he joined to, people like George and Paul McCartney, keeping going at the age they are. So really excited to have Lige on the show. That was a great conversation. Hope you all enjoy it next week. Putting it out next week right before the mothership lands again in New Orleans, the new mothership. We also talk about that. So look forward to my episode with Lige Curry. Hit subscribe. Here's my conversation with T. Hardy Morris. I'll see y'all at AthFest. I'm here with T. Hardy Morris. We're on Overeducated and Underemployed. And I already know the answer to the first question that I ask everybody.
Okay.
So I'm going to restate your answer and kind of expand on it. You talk about John Prine's Paradise as being one of the first songs you ever loved as a kid and that you really remember. How much do you think John Prine is still an influence on your songwriting and your music?
Immensely.
Yeah.
I don't write like him or try to or anything like that, but I definitely just kind of reflect on his approach to things in a lot of ways. Like, and even with been writing some newer stuff, and it's a little more narrative driven. You know, he's always kind of following a little path, so I just kind of try to learn that from him, and you know, to a certain degree, just kind of following the path that the song's on, and more.
Yeah.
Keep writing. Yeah, maybe I should just stay on the path. I guess in the past I would kind of try to divert, like to make it more interesting. It's like sometimes if you just keep following the path of the narrative, maybe it's all the more interesting.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty apparent that it's like this ever-present thing. I guess, how conscious is it? Maybe that's what you're talking about. Maybe you're shifting in and out of being conscious of the influence or the path.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Prine's it's well, and I've actually read an article that after he died, and it was an interview with him, and typical John, he's gonna say it better than anybody, but he was like, yeah, you know, I'm pretty proud of my thing. You know, I didn't make a bunch of money like a lot of the hit makers, but it's like people found out about my music through, you know, car rides with their family, and you know, just passing it from one family member to another. He's like, I kind of became a member of people's families, and that's kind of how it feels. It's like it's so immersed in my life.
It's just like it's so just ever present.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I came to his music so young. Like I say, it's like some of the first music I remember hearing, and then it just stuck with me because it's just timeless, and you know. So
You've talked about the first time you saw him when you were 15, and you had kind of turned on to like more of the grunge and punk and stuff like that at the time, as a lot of people did in the the early 90s, right? But or whenever it was, because I feel like I'm a little.
I saw him. It would have been like probably 1996 or 7, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
97 maybe. Merle Fest.
All right. Yeah. I saw Merle once, but
it was like a 3-piece, and yeah, he rocked it out. It was amazing. You know, kind of just drew me back in because, yeah, like you say, I had grown up with it, and you're kind of like, all right, I'm on to real rock and roll now. Saw Prine, and
do you think you were kind of pretentious about it before that?
Well,
like about rock?
Yeah, I was like, we're gonna see John Prine. That's fine. You know, I do like those songs. I remember them for what they are, and then when you saw it, it was like, oh my god, it's just so good.
It almost sounds like Prine was like Raffi in your house to like some kids. You know what I mean? I don't want to like focus too much on Prine, but I did want to like just talk about, because I knew he was an early influence, but I just didn't. I wanted to talk about how that has like carried forward in your career. It sounds like it's just like inseparable from like what?
Yeah, kind of. But you know, again, it's not intentional, but I don't try to emulate him really at all, and I don't sound like him or don't really write country or like his chord progressions and stuff are real kind of based in traditional music and stuff, and my chord progressions and stuff aren't really that way, and that's fine. You know, I'm glad that I don't sound more like him because I do love him so much. You know, glad that our tendencies are somehow really divergent.
Yeah, I mean, you've talked about how like even when you have such a big influence like that, you have to be aware of it and consciously like divert. So when you got back into, I don't know, folk music, for lack of a better word, I guess, what was some of the other stuff that was exciting to you, like as a teenager?
Well, the Neil Young was the other thing that, one of the first songs I learned. Heart of Gold. My mom taught me Heart of Gold on the guitar. That was one of the first songs I learned. And so I was a Neil fan through the years, and the way I remember when I was making my first solo record audition tapes, because I had, Dead Confederate was big, loud rock band, and I knew I wanted to use pedal steel, but I didn't want it to be like country pedal steel. I was like, I want to use pedal steel more in the way that like Neil uses it sometimes, and the way Elton John used it. It was like real melodic and kind of soaring, and did a thing, but it didn't just sound like country licks or whatever. But I guess Neil's version of country and alt country and Americana was like, I was fine with that. I didn't want to be any countryer than, roll another number.
Do you think part of it was because of like the rivalry between like Skynyrd, even though it's like a kind of a fictitious or like fan, they were friendly too.
Yeah.
But do you think like being aware of like that song feud kind of made you like pick a side, kind of?
No,
it wasn't like
really.
that. Yeah,
I love Skynyrd too.
Yeah, but you were definitely like
I don't really care.
That was southern enough for my like.
Skynyrd?
No, it was like that was too southern for your music. Like Neil Young was like doing the things that were like kind of the limit for how southern you wanted to be.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Skynyrd was, I think, kind of misunderstood in that regard.
For sure,
I mean, a lot of Ronnie's lyrics and all were not really that way. And
I think that's especially like songs like "Give Me 3 Steps" and.
Yeah, and then they just made some bad choices, and then once he died, the choices got really bad, and the legacy got really fucked up.
Well, they had a lot of people that weren't them that were invested in them making more money.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but whatever.
Yeah.
They got some jams, and.
Well, and I think like at the end of the day, like the people that understand Skynyrd, like they just know that they were a great band and they put out some great songs, and then the people that like. Have turned it into more than that. Like,
yeah, I kind of.
They've lost sight.
The thing I really like about Lynyrd Skynyrd and the Allman Brothers was like, when you listen to their music, I mean, I like a lot of it. It doesn't move me the way that a lot of other music that we're talking about does.
Yeah.
But what I appreciate about the Allman Brothers and Skynyrd is there's so much work that went into those songs, but it still like has this loose, fun feel. Like it doesn't feel labored.
Yeah.
But they worked so hard to like come up with all those good harmonies and parts, even though it feels real fresh and free. But you're just like, I mean, do bands work that hard anymore? I don't know if they do.
I think some do, but a lot of them are still like Parliament Funkadelic comes to mind because a lot of those guys.
Yeah, but that was.
Well, but now, I mean, the younger guys that have kind of like. Because they've had like kind of a gradual shift. Like their bass player's been with them for 40 years at this point. Their keyboard player, 30, almost 30, right? And even then, those are the young guys, right? They work that hard. I've seen, and I think it kind of like what you were talking about kind of reminded me of their structure too. Because I've always thought of them as like the opposite of a mullet. It's like the business is in the back and the party's up front. So. I'm gonna totally just shift gears on you a little bit. One thing you talked about is early on you were pretty shy about performing. Mm-hmm. A couple of things, like does that still like come up to you sometimes?
I mean, I'm not nervous or anything anymore, but I'm also still not like it took me a long time to realize. I was like, oh. Yeah, I'm a songwriter and a performer, and I like being in a band, or I like to perform the stuff I make up and create, but I'm not an entertainer, right?
Yeah, I got you.
So it took a while to like, why am I so uncomfortable about this? Or like, why do I feel such like, it's almost kind of, I just have always felt a little bit of imposter syndrome about getting up and playing, even though when the song is right and the room is right, I'm totally fine, totally comfortable performing if the transaction is reciprocal and like people are listening, and like today was totally fine. People were out there listening.
It was a great crowd.
Oh, if it's just like people waiting to be entertained, it's like
I feel like comedians get that a lot.
It's a one-way transaction, then you might be let down because I'm going to be singing some weird stuff and just like, it's just the shit I make up.
They have to come wanting to have fun.
I want to make it up. I don't make it up for you.
And I think that's how I approach comedy too. I don't write jokes that I think other people are going to think are funny. I write what I think is funny. And then...
And just hope.
Well,
That's the right night, the right room.
I think there's that, like, because part of it is like, I know I'm not for everybody. Like, I know I need to kind of find my tribe, if you will, with people that are interested in what I'm talking about and doing. But I also think like there's an element of it where it's exactly what you're talking about, but I think it's almost more prevalent in comedy crowds where like,
oh yeah, it's a one-way transaction.
the comedy crowd is like literally trying not to laugh sometimes. It's like you're gonna have to make me, and if they come not wanting to have fun, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Whether it's comedy or music or whatever, if they're not willing, it is a transactional thing where they have to be willing to like participate to a certain extent.
I'm sure it's I can't imagine. I did one stand-up comedy set with a friend, but I did it was awful.
Yeah.
It was. Have you ever heard of this comedian named Gene Tracy?
Yeah.
I did a cover stand-up comedy set. I did like 6 Gene Tracy jokes, and it was hard. And I'm doing like funny jokes by this idiot, and it was terrible.
Well,
I mean, even though people laughed and it was fine, and my friends like had a blast watching me do it, but I was morbidly uncomfortable, and I thought it would be fine. I was like, dude, I know these jokes by heart. It'll be fucking hilarious.
You're funny on stage.
I'm like, I'll do it.
Like,
and then I got up there and was like, it was not fun.
Yeah.
So
and you have funny lyrics sometimes.
Sure.
You're funny, you have funny banter on stage.
But it made me realize like the timing and like, like I say, even though I've heard these jokes 100 times and have them memorized, it was like, this was not as easy as I thought it was going to be, I guess I would say.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think.
And that was a cover.
Right.
Cover set.
One thing I've talked about on this show a lot is how I don't know that I want to see a bunch of comedians do other comedians' jokes, but it is weird that like musicians, it's totally fine when musicians start for them to just cover other people's music and that's fine. But if you're a comedian, but I think part of it is like so much of being a comedian is the writing.
Yeah.
Whereas
and the person telling the joke is like,
because if somebody else can tell your joke,
probably been dead for 50 years. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, comedy was way less personal back then.
Right? Yeah, it's just jokes.
Right.
There's straight up jokes.
Exactly. Now,
some of them, who knows if he wrote them. They were probably passing them around.
Yeah. I mean, now I feel like I don't think anybody could even tell my jokes because they're so, and I feel like that's true for most comedians.
Now it's evolved. Yeah, that was a totally different era.
So I think back to the show that we were both at in February. Drew Morgan and Corey Ryan Forrester and Mike Cooley hosting.
Yeah.
And Jen Bryant and I have always joked that Cooley wishes he was a comedian. And we were proven so wrong that night because I've never seen that man so uncomfortable in my entire life.
When he hosted?
Yeah, I was like, because he literally.
I think I got there. Did he speak before?
He spoke at the beginning. Okay, so he gets up, he literally, like Corey and Drew are like, you have as much time as you want. We're not going to light you. You can talk as long as you want. And he
clammed up.
90 seconds. Like 90 seconds.
Did he tell any jokes?
Maybe a couple of like little one-liners, but he was
hard.
Yeah, but so I have this like I don't know that it's a joke or a theory or just kind of a funny idea, but it's that all comedians are failed rock stars.
Yeah.
And most musicians or rock stars like wish they were comedians, at least secretly.
Or clowns.
And the reason I know that's true, and you've just broken the mold, the reason I know that's true is the musicians don't usually try comedy. All the comedians tried music.
Is a good example of a crossbreed.
Yeah, Steve Martin.
Yeah.
He's a good one too. So was there like a turning point for you getting over your shyness at a younger age? Because you bailed on the first performance you were supposed to do in first grade, right?
Yeah, bailed on that. And then it just took a long time. I mean, I would say that, it hadn't been until well into my solo career that I finally eased up. It was like,
I got you.
It was like I just didn't care anymore. And
it is kind of what it takes, right?
Yeah, it is. Especially in that, like we're saying, like the performer side. It was kind of once I had that like realization of like, oh, I'm in the entertainment business, and I never wanted to be. I'm just a performer
Of my
stuff,
songs.
of my
Yeah.
stuff. And it's like, okay, if I don't. It
So-
just once I realized why I was uncomfortable, it's like, oh well, I'll just perform and just not, just didn't care as much.
What motivated you though? If you're really shy about performing as a kid, but what motivated you to like work through it?
I think a lot of it was just wanting to make music with my friends and like collaborating. I was always making stuff up, but it was like I could hear these other things, like the drums need to be doing this, and the guitar needs to do this, or like if I play this, what are you gonna do? I've always wanted to be real collaborative, and I would have these ideas, but I wanted them to be heard for some sort of validate. Like, is this any good? Like you get so. And then if we were like, yeah, that is cool. It's like, well, let's play it for our friends at a party or whatever. Just like, I don't know. I really
So
don't
part of
know.
you wanted it.
I think,
Like you wanted to play your music for people.
yeah,
Yeah.
but not to like entertain them, just for them to hear my fucking ideas. It's
Yeah.
just like, what do you think? It's like a painter who's like, what do you think? I don't know. It's like, and my mom is a painter
Mm-hmm.
and an artist and a musician, and she paints just constantly, and I write a lot. I've noticed over time, I'm like, oh, I'm a lot artistically, a lot like my mother, just create a lot of stuff, and who knows if it's all great. Certainly it isn't, but it's just like a writer writes. You probably, as a joke writer, I'm sure you're writing all the time, and nobody tells you to. Nobody.
Not only that, but I'm always like looking at the most unpopular angle of a situation before anybody's ready to hear it. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's always too soon.
Yeah.
For me.
I don't ever play the guitar, if not every day, pretty much every day, and multiple times a week, and it's never like some dedicated thing of like I need to sit down. It's like I just look around and it's in my hands and I'm playing stuff. It's like
And I think
writer
that's
writes.
really what it takes.
Yeah, it's like I don't know why I've done it since I was
If you have to force yourself to practice, like you're never gonna get any good.
No, I've done it since I was 13 years old. And just make stuff up and humming tunes, and I pick up a guitar and make a song out of it. And it's not real. It's not very pointed intention of like I need to write some songs. It just happens.
You talked about how it most certainly kept you out of trouble as a kid, though, and probably at least like from doing worse shit than you were doing. But is there like, and it sounds like it's just kind of in your nature to do these things, like to create and to write, to play. On what level is it cathartic for you? Is it something like if you don't for a few days, like, I don't know, if you're somewhere where you just can't or whatever, like, do you get depressed?
No, I have a lot of other interests. There have been certain periods.
You're an architect, right?
Yeah, do design, do architectural design houses and renovations and historic preservation. That takes an enormous amount of time and is a huge interest of mine that I have through actual work.
It's not just what you do to pay the bills. It's something you actually really...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I have personal projects that involve that as well. And so there was a period, I guess, a couple of years ago, where I probably went the longest time that I've ever gone without playing much guitar or writing much music, but I was doing other stuff, and it didn't bother me, but there was sometimes I was like, I haven't picked up the guitar in a while, I wonder why.
Yeah.
But then it just kind of came back around, and it wasn't, and like I say, it wasn't really intentional, but that's like the only time in my life it's ever kind of fallen away, and it was, I guess all things considered, pretty brief.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe
like
a month.
Summer. Yeah, like a summer. I was like, I didn't play the guitar much lately. But, like I say, it just kind of winds up in my hands.
During that time,
I got two kids.
It's coming out of you some way, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think, like, the point of, like, that saying that I have about comedians and musicians is, like, it comes from the same place. Mm-hmm. There's this drive to create, to kind of comment on the world around us.
I think writers are the same way, even a chef, you know?
Sure,
There's just
yeah.
like, you got these friends that cook amazing food, and we're, you know, even architects. I work with some architects that are they're just so, that's all their brain does.
Weird Al has a degree in architecture.
Really?
Yeah, that was his backup plan.
Yeah. There you go. They're just design freaks.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, I'm sure chefs are walking around buying ingredients like, what am I doing? But they're like, they gotta make this thing that's in their head. You know?
Yeah.
I think it's just the creative way is like, yeah, I don't know. I think a lot about writers. I have some friends who are writers, scribing stuff down, and that's.
I use those the quarter sheet legal pads, and there's these.
Yeah.
They're just everywhere around my, like there's piles of them all around my house.
Yeah, that's not normal.
No, it's not normal, is it?
But it's great. But that's good. It's like, yeah.
So one thing that you were just talking about that leads right into one of the things I wanted to ask you about is like, where do the inspiration for your songs come from? Do they come from a variety of places, or like jokes usually? And I hear people talk about, and I think this is really where musicians and comedians like converge a lot. Is like, I hear a lot of songwriters talk about just having their antenna up at the right time.
Yeah.
And I think that's how most of my best jokes happen to me.
Yeah, I think that's the creative spirit in general.
Yeah. Is that how it happens for you most of the time, you think? Or
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll write a song and I'm like that My Friend's Dad song that I'm like, how did I not write that like 20 years ago? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it just didn't happen until, you know. So I don't, well, like that song, I kind of, when I was first doing solo stuff, a lot of my music, a lot of those songs were pretty nostalgic. They were kind of steeped in this, looking back on some of my childhood friends, and there were these songs about that.
That song you ended with probably too, right?
Yeah.
Very same kind of spirit.
And that's a newer one. And so those were, it was kind of more nostalgic then, and then, you know, and you can see it in the writing itself. Like then I had kids, and like I got these two records that are a lot more existential, and Dude the Obscure is like a much more existential kind of record, and that was really fun. And really enjoyed writing that way, but that's just all I could do at the time, you know, just kind of thinking about that kind of stuff. And then had that Digital Age of Rome record, which was more around COVID and all the early Trump stuff, and it was just weird times. So Digital Age of Rome, there you go. And then more recently,
I kind of understand why Nero was fiddling. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I get it.
And then more recently, I've kind of stepped back into nostalgia waters, and not for any reason other than just I kind of wanted to write a bunch of stories down. Like I had all these crazy stories from when we were young, and our old bass player used to ride around the van, and I would tell all these stories, all this stuff we did when we were kids. He's like, oh my God, he's like, we got to write this stuff down. And I never did because I'm not a writer like that, right?
Yeah.
And so
you're an orator.
Yeah, so it just happened. I started writing like one or two of those kind of songs. I was like, oh, this is how I'm gonna write them down. It was just like this, because that's how I write. So that kind of became how I tried to write those stories, like the last song you came up. And it was really fun, and then and I'm fine writing from the nostalgia vantage point because I've done it so much, kind of relied on it, you know, maybe too much, who knows, but I'm comfortable going there for writing. It kind of works for me. And then I've kind of noticed I've heard a lot of songs recently where people are kind of like reflecting, and go back to Paradise by John Prine, like it's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
Nostalgia is great in music, but I've noticed a lot, like with other contemporaries of mine, songwriters and stuff, and I'm like, you know, it's interesting that it seems like a lot of writers are going there right now, and it's like maybe it's because we don't know what we have to look forward to. It's like, why are we all like Winnie the Poohing back? It seems like I've heard a lot of songs like that, and they're beautiful and amazing and great, but it is kind of interesting because it came totally like, I just was doing it, and then I started hearing it. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of people like going there.
Maybe
And I'm
that's
like,
why they won't stop making Jurassic Park movies.
yeah, it's like they've all got kids. They're going to take their kids to the Jedi next Star Wars movie.
Well, speaking of kids, how do you think having kids changed your songwriting?
Well, it definitely did, in just like the nature of the records I was making. Yeah, dude, The Obscure was the first one that I made like after I'd had kids, and it was just, yeah, I mean, when I say existential, just kind of like just bigger thought processes, less like personal but bigger.
Yeah.
Little me.
Was it kind of written from that perspective, you feel like? Like,
I don't know. I think your mind,
whatever you're channeling.
Your mind changes a lot once you have kids. You're just, it's just not about you anymore, in a good way.
Yeah.
It's not about me, but I still have to do a lot.
Yeah, and they're going to pay way less attention to it now. So when you record a song or release a song, how do you let go of it? How do you decide you're done? I mean, if you're anything like me and a lot of other songwriters I've talked to, the song is never really done, right? Like you kind of have to force it.
Yeah, I try not to get too precious with it in the recording side of things, which maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. I don't know. But
you said it was so expensive, and you're like, when you were coming of age, like you kind of just had to be that way, right?
Yeah. Well, there's that, and then I just kind of learned through the years of just if it's a good song, just cut it. Cut it the way you're gonna cut it. Try to make it a track. Do the best you can with it. You definitely want to make it great, but the songs definitely tend to morph over time. When you start playing them in the live setting, you play them 100, because I'll record a song that I've only played 5-10 times, and then you wind up playing it 500, and it's like becomes this different, more soundscapey thing. The band learns it, and sometimes I'm like, well, should I season these things more before I record them? But I don't know. I just kind of like to keep it fresh and
I think
knock it out and keep going.
Like nobody can ever like say that your stuff is overproduced, right? Like it's very like stripped down a lot of the times, or very down to earth. Like it's never going to get that criticism, like having too much done to it or too much polish. Yeah, but like, and I say that like in a good way. Yeah. So you're about to play AthFest. Let's talk about Athens, AthFest. I've seen you play AthFest like 2 or 3 times over the years myself. What does AthFest like mean to you? Like getting to play it? What is it?
It's basically the time that almost every local band plays. You can finally see the bands you haven't seen, or some new band that's good or whatever. Just kind of everybody gets a lot of good camaraderie and a lot of good shows. I don't know. And then everybody kind of comes out. It's a hyper local thing, but it's
travel.
Yeah, there's some people that travel to it. Yeah,
it's hard. I mean, you can be hard to get a hotel there during AthFest.
Yeah,
a lot of the time.
Nice. This year, I don't even know if I've looked at the main stage lineup.
I can't remember who's playing it, but I'll dub it in right here. I know. I'm really excited to see Bloodkin again. They didn't play. I don't think they played last year. Right. And Neff played in like 5 other bands, but he didn't play in that one. I'm really excited to see MK Barnes. I haven't seen her play before.
I don't know that.
She's going to be on the show, I think, too. Lily Hyatt's playing. I'm really excited about that.
Oh, yeah. She's doing the thing. Yeah. I was supposed to play that show, and then I had already booked my own show. And so
I'm cloning myself, so it's fine. I'll get to see it all.
It's the same night, I
think so, yeah.
Me and Lily are the same night.
Yeah, but I think she's a couple hours before you.
We're playing it right across the street.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Slightly Famous Somebodies played their first show there last year, and they're playing their second show there this year. But yeah, it's for a band that's only played, like, their first show was fucking awesome. They were great.
Who is it?
It's Jonathan Spencer. Neff played with them last year. Like their recording is probably gonna end up like Sloan Brothers record, System Update, where it's just like this laundry list of personnel. I think they've got like a 6-piece band playing at AthFest. Jonathan Spencer, Laura Wiggins, Kane Stanley, Baylor Trucks, Mandy Riley. I'm trying to think of who else, but those are the ones I know for sure are playing with them this year.
Nice.
So they're kind of like a super group, but they're also like, some of them it's their only band, and they're actors or whatever too. But their songs are really good. I really like them a lot. They're pretty
Where
fun.
are they playing?
I think the 40 Watt.
Okay.
I think they're like right after you play.
Oh, late night.
But yeah, they're like the last. They're like right before Elf Power or something like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Elf Power is another one I'm really excited to see.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's one of those fests you're never going to get to see everybody you want to see in the weekend. Like it's
well,
rough.
that's good to know that some folks travel for it. I mean,
I've been coming up for
we
like 10
used to go
years.
up, right? When I think about it, we used to go from Augusta. I remember.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait.
Yeah, I've been going. The first time I went, I was on my way back from my cousin's wedding, and Jason Isbell was playing like right after Here We Rest came out.
Yeah.
So it must have been like 2011, I guess, or something like that.
I remember the year he played outdoor stage.
Yeah, the one right in front of the. It was the sun. He closed it out Sunday, and then the sky opened up like right after his set.
Right.
Yeah, the camaraderie is something you mentioned in the music scene in Athens and in AthFest in general. Like, it's unlike anything I've ever seen in a music scene or an art scene in general. It's really something to admire and be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think it comes from, man? Because there's other cities. I mean, I don't know that there's other cities of that size. I mean, maybe it's just the combination of the size in the culture, but
Yeah, I mean, obviously the
is
school.
there something in the water?
Obviously the school.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have a school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of other places that have
Well,
similar things, but they just have the right ingredients cooking together.
yeah, the state of Georgia has a lot of great stuff, and I think it's just a lot of those folks from a lot of towns around the state that don't necessarily feel completely fulfilled
Yeah.
in that town go to Athens or to Atlanta. But it seems to draw. I mean, I have a lot of friends in the art music scene, that are my age, some older, some younger, and they're from Bainbridge, and
Yeah. Matt and Kevin are from Bainbridge. They used to come to the record store here that I ended up working at years later.
Like Gene, who played with me today,
Yeah.
is from Columbus, and
Oh, word.
Tyler's from Carrollton.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Everybody's
yeah.
just from around the state, and neither of them went to University of Georgia. They just came there because it was a music scene that.
It was also ultra affordable.
Yeah, it was.
That was one thing I've talked about.
Not as much now. I lived in Atlanta for a bit too, and Atlanta's was great. That was where Dead Confederate basically started, and was very supportive to us, and a great music scene there too. Really special at the time, but it was so many people, and it could get a little bit cliquey, But like the Athens music scene, the clique is the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not
an out crowd.
No,
And
everybody's kind of. I heard somebody say one time, it was like, I've never met anybody interesting who wasn't also interested.
Yeah.
And Athens, everybody's just kind of interested, and they're like, well, what are you up to? What are you doing? They're very, and then the people are very interesting there too, because they're interested, and it's not a lot of posturing and stuff. It's just kind of, they're just interested in what other people have going on, and so it stays supportive in that regard.
I've asked a lot of people about this, and I think you may have described it better than I've ever heard anyone. Because, that's exactly how I feel when I go there. Is I'm interested in what everybody's doing, but people are actually interested in what I'm doing, and that's a really good feeling.
And that's
to have that exchange.
We were I lived in Athens, and we were in Atlanta, and Atlanta was good to us. Like I said, it was just bigger and kind of cliquey. And
it's easy to get lost.
And I was like, guys, I think it might be good if we were in Athens. And we came back there, and it was, just as good or better. And just didn't feel any of that weird rub with other bands or whatever. It was none of that. It was just everybody was cool.
Yeah.
This is
And
great.
I've noticed it in the comedy scene in Athens too. I think the comedy scene is the same way. So the last thing I want to get into, because it's getting late, you've played a show. I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight, man. This has been a great conversation. But what are some of the like things that, because you've been touring for a long time, what are some of the things that are like new hardships that you haven't really run into before in the last, like new in the last few years? And I think a couple of obvious ones is like everything is more expensive and everything is shittier, right? Like whether it's the food you get on the road or the service you get, you know, and not that, you know, any no specifics, but just in general, everything is like more expensive and,
Right.
and shittier. But what else?
I mean, you do notice like the longevity of like how long a record lasts for people. You know, it's so on the consumption of content
That
and all
TikTok
that.
brain.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like so fast, and I'm guilty of it myself. I'm like, have you heard the new so and so? And I'm like, listen to half the record. I'm like, oh, this is so good, and there is so much really amazing, great music. Like I hear stuff that I'm just like, this would have been melting my brain when I was 25 for like 2 years. You know,
Yeah,
I would have been
yeah.
obsessed with this band. But I think that the amount of content, the easy accessibility to learning everything about a band or an artist like that kind of takes away a little bit from like the mystique that we came up with, or I know I came up with, of like, you know, you would hear, you know, you had no idea if you had heard everything by a band because you had to go to the CD store and dig through and you're like, oh my God, there's a live show, and you know, but there were, in order to get the answers, you had to go to like certain destinations. You know, like this guy I heard has more CDs of that band that I gotta go find his older brother. You know, because he saw him, or the CD store or some different. And then now it's like it's all just so accessible that it's easy to shrug it off and move on from a thing like, I know everything about them. I read their wiki yesterday.
Or like
I'm a scholar.
I mean, even like I feel like the definition of listen to or read has kind of changed. When people are talking about themselves, like I listened to this or I read that,
Yeah.
like they don't mean what they meant 10 years ago. Somebody said they listened to something or read something.
Yeah, they skimmed it. Cliff notes.
Yeah. How do you actively avoid that, like in your own personal life? Like,
I do read a lot.
Yeah, that helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, I do read a good bit, and then
it's hard though. You know, like you really have to like shut out the other shit.
Yeah, I read at night, right before bed. And it's good because it makes me tired too. But and then, honestly, with music, probably this year, like 26, most of what I've listened to have been my friends' albums my friends have recorded. When I say recorded, like engineered or produced, and then friends' bands. And I'm like, I have so many great songwriter and, you know, band buddies that I'm like, there's just so much shit out there that I'm like, I'm just gonna listen to my friends. Like Cloud and my Samply and my Dropbox, and I'm just like, I have a friend that texted me earlier, he's like, we're putting out that record. I'm like, sweet, I've got a record to listen to tomorrow. Because otherwise, like, how do you even keep up? There's just so
really
much
hard.
shit. Unless it's somebody that I'm like really interested in. I mean, I try to check them out. I'm like, I should probably listen to the new whatever, and I check it out. But the whole thing, not often. But my friends' records, I want to listen to the whole thing because they recorded it, they made it. Like, so I've been more just kind of doing that and like not worried about the big wide world, and just kind of focusing on my buddies that are making amazing. Like I say, it's like everybody's making amazing shit.
I mean, that's kind of how I've been too, to be honest with you. Now that you say it, like I've been listening to like Wiley Gaby's been sending me some samples from his new record that's coming out, and I've been listening. I mean, I make a lot of friends doing this show too. Like, you know, the people I want to talk to, you know, usually there's reasons I'm attracted to their art in the first place or whatever, right? So, like, I listen to a lot of stuff by people I've had on the show and like that. that always like adds like that personal connection, like what you're
Yeah.
talking about too. The other thing that I've done that I think really helps, and I think it's kind of similar to reading a book, is like I listen to shit on vinyl.
Yeah.
If I'm going to listen
Yeah,
to it, I listen to the record
Yeah.
at least the first or second time. So then it is much more of like, I was talking to another guitar player this week, and one thing we kind of landed on was intentionality. And that episode will probably come out after this one, so y'all can look forward to that. But I think like just trying to be more intentional about my consumption, even like my art consumption, the concerts I go see, the phone calls I answer. You know, I think all of those things really help kind of put the unintentional stuff, like the algorithm.
Yeah, it'll start falling away.
It does. You just don't really have the time or the attention for it anymore. It really does kind of change. Hey, I really appreciate you being here. Is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap this up?
I don't think so.
All right. Well,
Good.
I'm really looking forward to being at AthFest with you, man.
Yeah.
Like, we're both performing at AthFest. It's kind of crazy.
I'm coming to your show.
Hell yeah. Well, come see me and Drew Morgan on Thursday, and then on Saturday at Nowhere Bar, right?
Yeah.
At 9:30? 10?
Something like that. But there's
Somewhere
great
in there.
bands all night. So
Great bands all night. Go right now and get your club crawl pass for AthFest, and we'll see you there, y'all.
Cool.
Well, that was my conversation with T. Hardy Morris. I hope y'all enjoyed it. We'll see y'all next week at AthFest. Hope you enjoy my conversation with Lige Curry next week, right before the Mothership drops in New Orleans on July 4th. Hope to see y'all at some comedy shows soon. Thanks for listening, y'all. I really appreciate it.